What is up, you guys? Welcome to Illumination Lab. My name is Justin, and welcome to another episode of Resculpted. In this series, we'll take a scene or an object and remake it within Cinema4D and Redshift. In this episode, I'll be setting up the scene, and in our next episode, we'll be bringing it all together by adding in materials and playing with some lighting. I'm excited for this one. This is going to be a fun one today, so without further delay, let's get into it. All right, so jumping into our sculpture section. So this is the image that we are going to be recreating here. First thing here, what I really see is the color palette. And so you get a really warm, deep orange. You have a lot of rust and copper tones. And so essentially this warm orange really kind of dominates this entire space here. And then the orange is kind of complemented by this darker colors, almost like a black door and window frames, so it kind of helps kind of ground the composition quite well. And then kind of going into the composition, it's pretty balanced here overall. The table and chairs kind of act as a focal point, and you kind of view the centerpiece or even just like the chairs and table in general. And so of course here what's really nice is there is some differences in textures. So there's a very strong contrast because you have this smooth reflective copper light fixtures, and then you also have this like soft velvet type chair. You have a wooden table, so you kind of have a mixture of different textures in here. Overall, as far as like the mood goes, it feels quite warm. You have lighting that's both natural and artificial, so you kind of get like more of a seasonal or like a cozy sort of feel here. So overall, that is kind of why I chose this, because it kind of had such a unique blend of kind of all this stuff, whether it's the colors, the textures, or even just like the composition in general. I thought this was somewhat unique because I really haven't made a scene at this sort of composition or angle here, so that would be kind of fun playing with this. So that is it for this section. Let's hop into Cinema4D and get this started. All right, so jumping right into Cinema4D, I'm just going to get into perspective really quick here. Cool. So first up, what I'm going to do is just bring in a cube. So I'm just going to shrink this cube down and just kind of stretch it out and elongate it as well. And then next, I'm going to bring in a Redshift camera. All right, so I'm just going to pop out of our perspective and then just zoom out. And then we're just going to bring in our Redshift render view and just lock that into our camera. And then I'm just going to my settings real quick, and we do have a somewhat longer image here, so I'm just going to kind of recreate that within our render view. Cool. So what we're going to do is we are going to rotate our cube here, and the reason we are doing this is because our original scene here is kind of at an angle here, and so we're just going to try to recreate that here real quick. I'm just going to bring in a dome light just so we can kind of see our scene a little bit better here. But yeah, if you look at our reference, we do have our scene at just a little bit of an angle here, so we're just going to establish that here real quick. So I'm just going to kind of rotate this back. And while I'm doing this, I'm just kind of taking a peek at our reference and just kind of making sure everything is to scale and everything is at the right order. Next up, what I'm going to do is just copy and paste our cube here. And then I'm just going to bring this one over and elongate this one. This one is going to be our back wall, so I'm just going to kind of measure that up like so. Next, I'm just going to copy and paste again. We're going to rotate this one and we are going to make this far wall here. And again, I'm just going to kind of elongate this and move it to about here. What we actually need to do to really kind of get best perspective here is I'm just going to change our output here. I'm just going to go over and select our A1 option here. And that one's going to kind of give us more of a longer yet narrow view here. And we're just going to kind of play with the perspective. So let's see. I could push it up to here and then just kind of back the camera up a little bit here. Let me see. I think that will be okay for at least now, and then we can always kind of edit this as time goes on. I'm just going to copy and paste our cube again, and then we're just going to kind of make this area back here where the wall is kind of extended out. So we are just going to kind of fit this in the back here. I'm just going to kind of make sure that this is the correct size and just place it back here. Cool. So that is looking good. Next up, copy and paste again, and we are going to bring this up, and this is going to be our ceiling. Just want to make sure that this is kind of touching all of the other assets, and it looks so. I'm just going to kind of turn that off to make sure I can kind of play around with the scene. So I'm just going to kind of turn that off for now. Copy and paste again. We're just going to bring this one over and just shrink this one down, and then we're just going to kind of run this across the scene here just to kind of complete this top area. And then we're just going to take this cube out, and then we're just going to establish our window area here. So I'm just going to copy and paste our cube again, and then just kind of shrink this down, and this will be kind of the bottom of the window here. So I'm just going to kind of elongate that and move this out. Next up, I'm just going to take our camera and just kind of reduce our perspective here. And really with this, I want to make sure that I have enough of the window, but at the same time, I do have a little bit of room for that door over on the left. So I want to make sure that I'm kind of grabbing everything at a proportionate rate here. So just kind of lining this up. I think 75 for our perspective might be a little bit better. And then we'll just kind of play around with this camera here. So this is probably one of the longest parts here, is just kind of establishing your foundation of your scene. Because if you don't really take your time to set up the foundation, you can be kind of SOL at the end of it, and then it'll be a little bit harder just to kind of move your scene around here. So it's kind of nice to kind of set an original foundation, and then you can kind of go from there. So next up, I'm just going to do another copy and paste, and we're just going to kind of make the border of this window here. So I'm just going to kind of push this up against the wall. And that looks about right. Again, copy and paste. I'm just going to kind of rotate this. And just kind of shrink this down and bring this to the top here. So again, just kind of creating the foundational pieces to our window here. And what I'm going to do is actually change our display settings here, just so we can kind of see this a little bit better, just so we get a nice outline, so it's not kind of clumped together within the same material here. So cool. Next up, I'm going to copy and paste this one. We're just going to move this one over. I'm just going to readjust this original one. And again, if you're looking at the reference here, we are just kind of recreating this window seal. So this is kind of like our rough draft portion, where we're just getting the general ideas, or getting the general strokes here of our scene, and then we can kind of go back in and really just kind of hone in that detail there. So again, just going to copy and paste here. We're going to rotate this one and just kind of bring this here to the top, and then just kind of adjust that. Shrink it down a little bit. Next up, copy and paste again. We're just going to kind of bring this one down. To about there. And then we'll turn on fillet as well, just to kind of round off our edges. And to maybe about there. So I'm just going to kind of zoom out to see what we can do here. This wall does need to be pushed out a little bit here. Cool. I'm just looking here, and then I'm just going to kind of readjust our foundational pieces here. Make sure that this is lined up. And then I'm just going to turn on fillet for this one as well, and then just kind of adjust it here. So again, scale is going to be super important. If your scale is off, your everything is going to look a little weird. So I'm just trying to make sure that we are getting all of our proportions correct, and just the general idea here. So super important. I've made tons of different scenes where I didn't pay as much attention to proportions, or just trying to kind of rush through it to kind of get to the exciting part of it, and I ended up being a little bit more disappointed just because it didn't really turn out how I wanted to. So these steps can be a little tedious, but they are definitely needed for sure to make sure that you get everything right here. So I'm looking here. I think I'm trying to make sure that this is the right height. So I'm just going to kind of play around with this and just kind of see here. So maybe what we'll do is just kind of grab the camera and we'll just kind of shift this over a bit. So again, we're just trying to get a little bit of the window and just kind of have enough room for that door on the left side. But at the same time, I want to make sure that I kind of get some of the ceiling, because you could see some of the ceiling within our reference here. And then maybe I'll just kind of pull this back here. And then again, just need to fix this to make sure that this is pushed out. And then of course we'll have to readjust this. And then we'll just kind of move this as well. And then as I'm doing this, I'm just looking over at our reference and just making sure that everything is aligned and looking pretty good. I think I can widen this one out a bit. Yeah. And then I'm just going to kind of put that in place there. And just kind of back that one up. Maybe till like there. Cool. That looks pretty good there. All right, so next up, I'm just going to copy and paste our wall here. And I'm just going to kind of bring this out to maybe about here or so. And really with this, I'm just trying to make somewhat of a placeholder for our door. Just kind of make sure that I can kind of see that within our view here. So let me see here. Maybe about here. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's gonna be fine here. Yeah, we'll just kind of leave that as is, and then we can always just kind of adjust this quite easily. Next up, I'm just going to bring in a cube, and again, just kind of get a general idea of the proportion of the door. And so I'm just going to kind of plug in these panels here for now, and then we'll kind of work on that later. So next up, what I'm going to do is we're just going to copy and paste our floor here, and I'm just going to kind of bring this up. We're just going to kind of create somewhat of a placeholder for this table here. And so I'm just going to turn off our lights here and just adjust this. So again, super tricky with this one. I want to make sure that our kind of focal point is in the right area here. Again, with this, when we're looking at our reference, I have to kind of line it up with where it is as far as like the door goes, and then where it is as far as like how close to the window as well too, and then of course how tall it is. So we have to make sure that we are getting the heights correct as well, because if we don't do that, we will have like these massive chairs and they'll just not look right at all. So I'm just going to kind of play with this, elongate this out, maybe push it to maybe over here. Now I'm just going to bring in a cube. I'm just going to kind of rotate this a little bit, and we are going to kind of put this in the back corner here. And so again, just establishing our general idea of some of our assets here. So we have this nice little drawer here in the corner, so just making that real quick. Next, I'm just going to hop into Grayscale Gorilla. As you can see, they have quite a bit of options as far as chairs go. So we can throw in some of these chairs here and just kind of see how this looks. So I'm just going to grab this one and connect and send the asset over. And then I'm just going to type in vase here. I'm just going to kind of bring in this one here. And then we're just going to go in and type in bowl. And this wooden bowl asset here would work nice. So let me just kind of throw that in. And then I'm just going to jump back to our vase, and we're just going to kind of bring in this one. All right, so we have all of our assets here. So let's just kind of play around with this. I'm just going to give it a quick save, and then we're just going to kind of bring this chair out. I'm just going to rotate this, bring this up, and then we're just going to kind of adjust it to the table here. And then we're just going to kind of adjust it to the table here. What I'm actually going to do is just kind of change out our placeholder here. So I'm just going to kind of bring in this one here, and then we're just going to kind of move this. And again, just kind of readjusting our table just to make sure that I have it in the correct place here. And then I'm just going to increase our chair size here and just kind of make sure it's kind of lined up to the table. Again, similar to our reference, trying to make sure that it is in its correct spot. Cool. So next up, I'm just going to copy and paste. I'm going to rotate this, and we're just going to kind of set the chairs here to the rest of the table. So again, copy and paste, move this over. So what I'll do to just make this easier, I'm just going to copy and paste the both of these and then move these over. And then I'm just going to kind of place these assets into our table set here. And I'm just going to kind of shrink down these chairs. Yeah, that is a little bit better here. That's a little bit more proportional to what we have in our reference here. So that is looking a little bit better here. And then lastly, I'm just going to copy and paste our last chair here and just rotate this and bring this over to the back end here. And then I'm just going to go and kind of readjust these chairs just to make sure that they are kind of lined up here appropriately. And then I'm just going to elongate out that table. All right, cool. So next up, I'm just going to bring in our little plant here. Just kind of increase the size here. And then I'm just going to kind of throw out the plant itself, and we're just going to keep that nice vase. And then I'm just going to kind of move that. And then next up, I'm going to bring in our wooden bowl here. And again, just kind of establish a placeholder for our table here. We do have this nice vase and a bowl as well too. Not really this size, but we do have a bowl on the table, and so we're just going to kind of make sure that we kind of put those in here. And then if you do look in the reference, we do have this other vase that is in the back corner. Same situation with this one, not exactly the same shape, but again, we're just getting the rough idea of everything. So really, again, I just want to make sure that we can stage this, especially in the beginning steps of this project here. I just want to make sure that I am kind of laying everything out and we get a good idea of where everything is. And then we want to make sure that our proportions are correct. So again, super important to kind of do this. If this was like a drawing, this would be kind of like a rough sketch here. So that is super important, especially when starting out here. Next up, what I'm going to do to finish this off today, I'm just going to bring in another cube. And again, just get a general idea of where this rug is supposed to go as well. And so I'm just going to kind of rename this carpet here. So again, very simple with this one today. However, this was very essential with outlining our foundation. I'm going to also kind of bring in this cube here and just kind of set up the far side of our wall here. Again, with this, if we can kind of get everything in place, we can kind of get a general idea of where our shadows are, and we could kind of line that up to where it is within our reference here. So again, there's a lot of things to kind of make sure you're doing correctly if you are trying to recreate something. Of course, your lighting and your shadows are going to be really important too. That definitely sticks out like a sore thumb if your lighting is not correct here. But anyways, let's hop into the wrap-up section for this one, and we'll just kind of go over our next steps here. So all right, so wrapping up this project here, like I was just saying, that we're just kind of getting our foundational pieces set. And then as you can see here, I have in the background here, we're going to be setting up the rest of our scene in our next episode here. So we're just going to kind of make some minor adjustments as far as our scale and throwing in some more assets here in the second video. And then we're just going to kind of dive into kind of getting the colors right for all of this, making sure that we kind of represent that same orange that we see in our reference here, and then also kind of making sure that when we are working on this door, we do have a nice backdrop. So if you see in the reference here with our door that is to the left, it does have some windows in here, so we want to make sure that we can kind of recreate that background area too. So we'll do all of that in our next episode here. We'll just kind of bring it all together. But with anything else, you definitely have to have this foundational start. So that was this episode today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think. You guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next one.